Good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. We are only a couple of days away from Texas and Ohio State. Your favorite Unk is back. And listen, I'm here to talk about those road warriors, aka your Texas Longhorns. We're going to get into the success that they've had on the road. We're going to talk about this important road matchup. I've got my power rankings in here as well. So I got some stuff from Steve Sarkisian. I got a show for you. So do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to the channel if you have not done so. We're creeping up towards 100K. And so we want to make sure we keep it that way. So please hit that if you haven't. Let me just hit a quick retweet here and let's get this thing started. I'm excited about the things that we want to discuss. I'm really excited to really get into the Road Warriors conversation, man, because, you know, when you think about this Texas team and you think about the success that they've had, you know, it can't be ignored that it's a lot of it has happened because of the success that they've had on the road. So let me retweet this, and good morning to all you. I see the unks hollering in the house. I appreciate that. All right, retweet, and here we go. Let's hope, oh boy, who's the Ohio State fan. Let's hope he's on some chill thing today. I don't have to. I think I'm. I don't know. I may have banned him. I don't know. Any case, let's do this. We're gonna talk Road Warriors, but let's start off because every week, probably on a Wednesday, if you're new to the show, every week on a Wednesday, I will give you my power rankings. They usually put it out on social media somewhere, so you'll have a chance to see that. But I'll give you guys every week what my power rankings are. These are my power rankings right now. It's basically a preseason power rankings, right? So let's start with this, and you guys will get a chance to see my preseason power rankings, which is basically, for lack of better terms, it's my preseason rankings for the SEC. All right, so that's all that is, right? I've got, to no one's surprise, and it shouldn't be to the end of your surprise, clearly I've got Texas at that number one spot. I think it goes without saying that this is a team that I believe is going to win the SEC championship this year. I know Ketch believes Georgia's going to win it, but I believe that Texas is going to be the best team in the SEC when it's all said and done. I do believe that, you know, I had to make a prediction, and I said Texas would be at 11-1. Now, listen, one of the reasons I had to say that is because it's really hard to be undefeated. It's really hard. Like Michigan was undefeated a couple of years ago, but I think we all have a reason why. And then outside of that, you had Joe Burrow, who just went ham in the 2019 season. So it's hard to go undefeated. And so unless Archman is the second coming of Joe Burrow, which if he is, hell yeah, we'll all take that. But for right now, I'm just going to say, give Texas a loss. I don't think it's going to be against Ohio State, but I'll give them a loss. And then I'll go with Texas at the number one spot. Georgia will be at that number two spot for me. People can say what they want to say about Georgia and the quarterback and how you maybe don't believe in him. But like I said something when I said to Ketch on earlier this week, no matter if you believe in the quarterback, I believe in Kirby Smart. And I don't believe Kirby Smart makes mistakes. I don't believe Kirby Smart has won national championships by accident. I don't think he's been one of the top programs in the SEC by accident, right? So for me, it's going to go number two, Georgia. I really debated Alabama versus South Carolina at this. I really, really debated Alabama versus South Carolina. I did go Bama number three. And I just know there's still a lot of talent left on that team. But I'll be honest with you, I wanted to put South Carolina in that number three spot. I really, really wanted to do that. My hesitation on that, and I'm a big believer in South Carolina. You guys will hear me say this quite often. The best thing that can ever happen to Oklahoma is that when they get rid of Venables, they hire Shane Beamer, because I think that would be the guy that actually turns around their program. But, I know you guys don't want that. I know you want to see that. What I need from Beamer, though, I need Beamer to win a big game. And that's my only thing with him. They lost to LSU last year. They also lost to Ole Miss last year. They lost to Alabama last year, right? And so, yes, they had some other quality wins. They were able to get past Texas A&M, and maybe you could say Missouri is a quality win, maybe Vanderbilt towards the end of last season, right? But for me, as much as I like Beamer, I need him to get one of those quality wins first before I can fully go all chips in on him. So but I do believe they'll be better, and I think they have one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC with Lawrence Sellers. I don't necessarily believe he's the best quarterback in the SEC, but I believe he's one of the better ones. Now, obviously LSU, I got them at the number 5 spot. And the thing why I have LSU at the number 5 spot is I just feel like sometimes with LSU, things that can go wrong will go wrong. And I think they've got a quarterback that will obviously help them win. And they've got talent on that team. But when I look at, okay, and again, I know this is the SEC, but they still have the Ole Miss of the world. They still got South Carolina. They've got to play A&M. They've got to play Alabama. I just feel like they're going to get tripped up a couple of times. I think they're the ultimate boomer bust. I put A&M at my number 6 spot. I don't think they're that bad. Quite honest with you, I don't think they're that bad. I know it's easy to kind of joke at them and poke at them, but I don't think they're a bad team. And look, they were right when Texas faced them last year. Okay, so I put them at the number 6 spot. I put Florida at number 7, and I'm just the thing that concerns me about Florida is Lagway. It's just the thing that concerns me about him. I don't know what his health is going to look like. And I don't really like that going into the season that he was already limited in training camp. And that's a guy who's already had injury problems last year. I don't know if Lagway makes it 12 straight games. I just don't know. I don't want to speak that on him. I know that sounds negative, but that's why if he stays healthy, sure, Florida could be something special. But can he stay healthy? I don't know. Because I don't know, that's why he's at the number 7 spot. Now, I've got Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Missouri rounding out my top 10. Shoulder shrug to all of them. My thing with Ole Miss at the number 9 spot is, look, if you were a 9-win team with Jackson Dart, I don't know how things get better without him. How do things get better without a first-round pick, right? I don't know. In Missouri, Missouri gets wins, and I can't take away Missouri's wins. I'm just never 100% sold on Missouri. That's another program that I feel like I just want to see just some good quality wins from them. And some of them say, well, maybe they had some. Like, I don't know. I just didn't look. They've got, they're going to beat South Carolina, or they're going to beat Alabama this year, or they're going to beat A&M. Probably not. I don't think they're going to beat any of those teams. So because I think they're kind of a above average team, but that's not a team that any of us are looking at and saying, okay, that team is going to be competing for a playoff spot. So they put them at number 10. I put Oklahoma at 11. And only reason I put Oklahoma at 11 is because I think they'll be slightly better than the other teams that I've ranked below them, but not by much. Now we're getting into this part of the exercise. And now we're in that 7-win range. Like for me, everybody from 11 down, their ceiling is probably 7. If all goes well for Oklahoma, and all goes well for Oklahoma, maybe they get to 8 or so. 9 if just God just wakes up and says, you know what, they deserve something nice. But outside of that, I'm just not sold. They've had a lot of coaching turnover. I'm just not 100% sold on all the guys staying healthy. I'm not sold on Venables as a coach. To be quite honest, he still hasn't won a bowl game. I'm just not sold on him. And so I have them at that number 11 spot, followed by Arkansas, shoulder shrug. Vanderbilt at 13 that's another guy. Diego Pavia, is he going to stay healthy? It's hard for a little guy like that who likes to scramble. Like, is he going to stay healthy the entire time? No. I've heard people try to talk me into Kansas. I took the bait on Kansas last year, and I really thought in my head, all right, maybe Kansas will be something. Maybe Kansas will be not Kansas, Kentucky. I apologize. I thought Kentucky might be something. They were trash when it was all said and done. They had a former 5-star quarterback that joined the team, and I thought to myself, okay, this might be something. And they got a couple of guys on the interior that everyone thought was supposed to be special. They weren't. And the rest of these, it just, Auburn and Mississippi State. And again, you read things in the preseason, and people will try to talk you into things and try to tell you like things will be better. I don't think things are going to be better for Auburn and Mississippi State. I just don't think Mississippi State will be able to compete unless they really, really get some big time donors in there. Unless Mississippi State gets some really big time donors in there, they're always going to struggle. So that's kind of my top 16, and that's kind of what it looks like. By the way, Rodolfo, you love the thumbnails. You love the thumbnails, Rodolfo. You know what's crazy, Rodolfo? I mean, you are. Listen, and Rodolfo, you're the one who's going to a Young Boy concert. People like these thumbnails. I don't understand it, but people like these creative, crazy thumbnails when people are doing crazy stuff or silly stuff. I don't know, but for whatever reason, people click on these videos more when these thumbnails are like that. So that's kind of where it is. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, it's time for us to talk about Texas going on the road and playing against Ohio State. And there's a couple of different things as relates to this. Because for me, Sark talked about the 11-game win streak that Texas has had on the road. He brought that up on Monday. And I'm going to get into some of the audio, some of the conversations that we had with Sark. I would tell you for me, there was like a defining moment when it came to Texas and road wins. And that moment came when they beat Alabama a couple of years ago. And so in that summer of, 2023, spent some time during that summer, not going crazy, but I was questioning things. And I was questioning why Texas was basically having these guys out there in the heat. Y'all remember that summer 2023 was like over 100 degrees for damn near every day in the summer. Y'all remember that? It was like, I don't know how many consecutive days. I feel like we broke a record here, but it was something crazy, like 2 straight months, something crazy like that. It was crazy. It wasn't like this summer. This summer was actually a good summer in Texas, but it was that summer, right? And I was kind of, hearing about guys and hearing stories about guys struggling in practice, and but they kept trying to instill this like toughness in them. Like they had this rule that, I know it's breakfast time for some of y'all, so I'm going to be kind of sensitive on how I say this, right? But they had this rule that, hey, if you couldn't hold it within your stomach, if it came out, you couldn't bend down. Like you couldn't bend down and just let it out. You literally had to put your hands on your waist, on your knees, and let it out that way. And they were like, you got to be tough, right? So I'm like, man, y'all got these boys out here practicing in this heat like this. I said, okay. And then Texas goes on the road and they beat Alabama the way that they did, right? And it was an impressive fashion, right? I mean, we all saw that. And Texas, when we got to the second half of that game, I mean, Texas was just whipping ass. I mean, they were just throwing guys around. Like it was crazy. Like you never really saw an Alabama team really get manhandled like that, especially at their crib. Like that doesn't happen, right? So there's somebody grabs me by the arm after the game. I'm just kind of whatever. And someone like grabs me. And but not like hard and not aggressive, but just like grabs me to get my attention, right? And they said, that's the reason why we had them practicing in the heat in the summer. And I was like, excuse me? And like, that's the reason why we had them practicing in that heat during the summer for this to happen, to make them into a tougher team that can do it. And I was like, all right, cool. You point well taken, right? Yeah, you can go celebrate with the team now, right? I think someone's planting a flag or something. You might want to intervene over there, right? But that to me was okay. Got it. The foundation has been set. Totally understand everything that you guys were doing. Not a problem. Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. Thank you. It was like 45 days of 100 degrees in 2023. Thank you, Brandon, for that. That it was hot as hell. That's all I remember, right? It was hot as hell during that game. But that whole summer, that whole summer was RIP to our lawns that summer too, by the way, right? So in any case, Texas has been on this 11-game win streak, right? And I had my producer put together something before the game. He and I worked on this thing together. And isn't that a pretty cool graphic, by the way? My producer, Tyler, I gave him all the ideas. He gets all the social media credit. but anyway, no, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. You can see it. So one of Texas's last losses, and I actually went back and I had to look this up, and it really started. The last loss Texas had on the road was October 22nd, 2022, when they lost against Oklahoma State 41-34, obviously in Stillwater. For some of you guys that still may remember that, and prior to that, Texas, I mean, they lost to Texas Tech that year, 37-34. I think you guys may remember that game as well. And so, Texas really prior to that really wasn't doing that great on the road. And then they lose to Oklahoma State and Stillwater. And then what's crazy about it is after they lose to Oklahoma State and Stillwater, they have a bye week. And then they come back and they beat Kansas State, which was the number 13 team in the country at the time. And that was a crazy win for those of you who you guys remember it. And then, they go ahead and beat Kansas, which was end up getting some get back, which we don't want to talk about that. and then that 2023 thing happens. And that to me is when the momentum just started shifting. They beat Alabama by double digits on the road. They beat Baylor. What's crazy, that Houston game on the 21st, that game, sometimes, there's a saying that says, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And in that game, I mean, the history of Texas, I don't even know what it looks like if Texas doesn't pull off that win versus Houston. But they do pull off the win versus Houston, and that's all that freaking matters. Like, it is what it is, right? If my uncle didn't have two, well, oh my God, I don't know if I can say. I probably shouldn't say that on a morning show. It didn't just say if my uncle didn't have that genitalia, he would be my aunt. How about that? All right, I'm sorry, y'all. They didn't beat TCU. They beat Iowa State. And then they go last season on the road versus defending national champions. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm not a person that's going to be one that buys the whole, well, this isn't the same Michigan team that they were the last year. Sure, there are some differences. But one, would you have said that had Michigan defeated Texas? Probably not. Is this also the same Michigan team that beat Ohio State at the end of the year? So are they good or are they not good? You got to get credit where credit's due. At the end of the day, you go on the road, you win it out in a hostile environment, a historic environment that is, you got to give them credit. And Texas goes and put the smack down. They go ahead and beat Vanderbilt. And look, Vanderbilt was ranked at the time. It is what it is. Like, I mean, I can't remember if Vanderbilt had a loss or so before the Texas game. But, I mean, Vanderbilt was highly ranked. And then, of course, reality set in. They end up being bowl eligible. But Texas does go on the road, and they beat Vanderbilt. Man, going on the road is hard.
I feel like that was who used to say that? Was that Herman or Strong used to say that? Well, could it be Charlie because winning was hard, and so it had to be Tom Herman who used to say winning on the road is hard. Texas goes ahead and beats Arkansas on the road, and then you close out last season defeating Texas A&M 17-7 in that game, and there's your 11-game win streak, which brings us 100% into this game here. It was Tom Herman. Thank you. I knew it was Rich. I knew it had to be Tom that said that because I know it wasn't Charlie. It wasn't Charlie. Anyway, so then that brings us current day, modern day, going against Ohio State, going into Columbus. I don't know how many of y'all are going into Columbus. I think somebody told me in the chat yesterday they were getting there on Thursday. I had to look, and I'm getting in on Friday afternoon. But nonetheless, I stop. Y'all stop. Leave time below. We asked about that because I think it's going to be a huge talking point this week. And I asked Sark about that, and we have some audio of Sark talking about what it is, road wins, all those kinds of things. And you know what I like to do? I like to get into that road success. So using that as the backdrop of it.
Coach, October 22nd, 2022 is the last time you guys lost a road game in a regular season. What's been the key to success for you guys on the road, especially those big road games that you had like against Alabama or Michigan?
Yeah, I think we trust our process. We've got a real process that we believe in our starting this morning, and what our practice plans look like, and the crowd noise that we work with, and then to Friday's routine, to game day's routine, and to really toning out what's going on outside of us and focus on what's going on between the white lines. And to your point, we've been in some tough venues. Playing at Kyle Field last year was a tough venue. Playing at Michigan last season, defending national champs. Going to Alabama the year before that. So we've been in some tough venues. I think doing it with confidence, knowing that adversity will strike, and then having a next play mentality, having the mental toughness to persevere to get on the other side of some of that adversity, I think is really important as well. But mostly it's staying connected. It's staying connected on that sidelines, being enamored with what we need to do, and not get so caught up in what's going on around us.
And it's interesting too, and I'm going to get more back into that. Y'all got to excuse me. I was raised in the South. Y'all got to forgive me. I don't even know what that was. One of the things that Arch talked about was being able to learn from Quinn on how to handle the road. You got to think, Arch, this is year 3 for Arch. So you got to think everything that I mentioned, I just put on the screen. That's what Arch Manning has experienced, and that's what Arch Manning has seen. And so for him, he's been able to learn from Quinn. By the way, shout out to Quinn for making the Dolphins 53-man roster. Props to Quinn Ewers. Just props to Q for making that. Let all the haters sit their asses down. Congratulations, young man. Good for him. Good for him. I just was happy for him. He's taking a lot from people on this channel too, but not for me. So props to him. Good luck going forward. Someone made a comment. They're like, man, that's kind of crazy. We're talking about a guy who's a former 5-star, and everyone's happy that he made a roster. Well, shoot, life happens. 5-star thing was a long time ago. So good for Quinn to do that. All right, let's do it. Let's keep going.
Coach, you mentioned using crowd noise in practice this week. How did your players respond to that, especially these newer guys?
They do well. I think one thing that crowd noise does is once you get over being overwhelmed by the noise, it forces the focus. It forces you to focus, and inevitably the way we operate, when you're really focused, it better serves us. And so sometimes I'm wondering if we should be pumping crowd noise at home too. I feel like we have more penalties on pre-snap stuff at home than we do on the road. And so, but there's a reason for that. I think is we practice it, and our guys feel comfortable with the crowd noise.
Hey, Sark, I know the team always talks about these road games are kind of like a us versus them mentality. For you personally, though, what are these road environments like?
I love them. I've never been to the shoot. I had never been to Michigan last year. I've been to Kyle Field one time the year before that. Obviously, I'd spent time in Tuscaloosa, but I love it. I think it's cool for college football. I kind of enjoy people telling me how terrible I am and stuff. It kind of fuels my fire a little bit. So, no, but it should be.
He just don't want anybody tell him about his red zone offense. But you don't mind anything else, right, Sark?
Environment. I'm looking forward to it.
Back right, Sam.
Steve, having played these types of big non-conference games, what has the value of them been to your program and this one in particular? And what place does it have in your program as you guys move to 9 conference games down the road?
Yeah, no, I think it serves us well in preparation, as I said, for the remainder of the season, what we have to do. You look at some of these other road games that we have to go on. I really think going to Michigan early in the year helped us and gave us a lot of confidence going to Kyle Field at the end of the year, because our players got exposed to so much of what it was like to be on the road in a hostile environment. So, the goal is that this can serve well for that as well as the speed of the game, the physicality of the game. You're looking at two, highly talented rosters with really good coaches, and so the speed, the physicality of which it will be played at is going to be something that is going to be, really replicated when we get into SEC play. How it affects the 9 game, I don't know yet. I spent about 20 seconds thinking about that when that announcement came out. So I don't know if it affects that so much moving forward, but I know it will affect us this year, which I think in a good way.
Back by the cameras, Ruben.
Thank you, Coach Sark. I asked you this question before the third game last season, but it's important for me to do it today. You said
have fun doing it along the way, and so I enjoy that because that's a little.
Steve, how involved are you with CDC and scheduling these big time non-conference games like this? And do you believe, I guess, in the college football era that playing this type of game helps or hurts your case to make postseason?
Yeah, between CDC and his team, they go comb and they go find the right mixes and matches, because you may want to play a team, but it's got to fit their schedule and their timing, what their schedule looks like. And in the end, when it comes to me, I get a chance to say yay or nay. Yeah, let's do it, or no, I don't love that. What are the other options? So it's a collaborative effort, but CDC really takes the lead on a lot of that stuff with his team and does a great job. Our schedules have been tremendous non-conference, and the future looks very bright to continue that. I think about the CFP, and as we've continued to evolve from 2 teams to 4 teams to 12 teams, and God knows where we're going to go next. My thought is almost that you get rewarded for playing these games, because I think you probably ask the majority of the coaches around the country, they're thinking, man, that's a really hard thing to do, is play that game week 1 on the road. Or at home, depending on the year. And so I think from a CFP standpoint, it's almost like, check mark the box for a positive, that they were willing to play the game. Maybe they won it, maybe they didn't, but surely they put themselves out there and were willing to do it, And I see so many people talk about SEC scheduling and not playing Power 4 teams. In this conference, it's real. We're playing real teams. We all are, and on top of our own schedule, and on top of next year, we're going to 9 games. And so you're looking at a real schedule. And so the goal is to be rewarded for playing these games. Obviously, you can reward yourself by winning. That's helpful. But I just don't think either us or Ohio State, for that matter, is going to get punished for playing in this game from a CFP standpoint.
And I would totally agree with Sark on that one. I think, again, we saw it a couple of years ago when 2023, when Alabama lost to Texas, but the committee didn't hold it against them. And then Alabama ended up getting into the playoffs as a result of it. So it's not the end of the world for either team that ends up losing. You just probably don't want to be on the 3-loss portion of it. But there you go. Hold on. There was super chat that came in at one point. And the super chat came in, and I appreciate it, from John Barbs. John Barbs must have changed it because it used to be Barbs something other than that. But anyway, John Barbs says, Quinn always had a QB1 mindset. Side note, gotta shout out the shirt. Ricky should have veered or swerved instead of running in a straight line down. Ricky! Dude, you just ran it. Ricky ran straight. Ricky ran straight. First of all, can I just say this about Ricky, though, real quick, John? Can I just say this about Ricky? Listen, nobody deserves to get shot, right? Nobody deserves to get got, right? I totally get that. But this is a movie. Can I just ask you something? If you got people chasing you, John, and you got people who are on your tail trying to kill you, why are you drinking milk and doing a scratch off in an alley? Like, where are you? Where is your field presence? You got people who are chasing you. You're like, man, I think it's time for me to do a scratch off right here in this alley. What the hell are you doing, Ricky? I ain't saying you deserve to get shot, but you sure as hell wasn't doing enough to avoid it. And then at that point, yeah, I mean, you didn't do nothing. Hell, you would have. Most people in the hood can't shoot. Would have been better off just standing still. See people like, bro, where are you aiming at? Anyway, that was always my thing with Ricky. Why are you playing scratch offs when people are trying to kill you? Anyway, QE, props to Quinn. What he was able to accomplish. Oh, there was a couple of different things. He was 17. I don't give a damn if you 17. I don't care if you were 17. If you were 17 and had someone chasing after you, the last thing I'm doing is in an alley doing a scratch off. What the hell you was doing? He would have never survived USC. Never. He had no field awareness. If you haven't watched Boys in the Hood, you have no clue why I'm critiquing the movie so much. Last time I flew on a plane, it was to Atlanta for the SEC title, and said Golden sat next to me at Orange Buzz Lights. I blank you not. How was the conversation with said Golden? Somebody had said Jay Witt made the roster, and props to Jay Witt earning that paycheck. Michelle had said something here. Congrats on getting the quote of the year from Arch and the media available to this week. And hype me up. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. That ends up being the quote of the year. That's the thing that ends up being on the t-shirts. And I ain't getting nothing for it. I ain't getting no money. People going to cash in. Somebody's going to have like a scope and make t-shirts. Somebody should really do that. Somebody should really do that. But yeah, thank you for that. And then there was somebody else. Patafel said Corey Mose is a young Anwar. Well, I don't know. Hey, I hope he has a good career. He's a good dude. I like him. A bit more swag, than I did at that young age. The thing about young people now versus when I grew up. When I grew up and you was thin, like people made fun of you. Like I grew up in the era. Hell, Green Lantern, if he's here, he can tell you all about that, right? Green Lantern's old school like me. I grew up in the era. Tex Blom may know this too. Like people, like there was no such thing as like bullies. People just said horrible things to you and you just dealt with it. You didn't go to the office. So when you was thin, like people could just say whatever. I've heard every skinny joke in the world. You're so skinny. You could do you could hula hoop with a Cheerio, right? You're so skinny. Like I've heard every skinny joke that there is, right? But now it's like it's so cool to be thin. Like you can wear skinny jeans and you can have your little bird chest and have your little chain and like no one even thinks about it, right? So for a guy like him, he can have more swag than I did because back then people were mean. They were mean. Y'all have no clue. Rodolfo, Money B, y'all have no clue what it was like to grow up in the era of the 70s and 80s where people could just say whatever it was to hurt your feelings and you had to take it. You have no choice. I've been called everything. And now it's bullying. And you can't do that. So that's why I say Corey Moses got more swag. It took me years to get some swag. Corey Moses got more swag at this age that I have because he's growing up in a different kind of thing. So see, Tex Blonde knows we all got our childhood things that we're like, I still remember some of the things that people said. Like it was horrible when you were thin. It was horrible because people don't understand. People don't understand when it comes to people who are thin. Like it's still like judging someone's body, but you know you can't say anyway. All right, I won't get into that. Anyway, that's it. All right, we done. I got more tomorrow. 2 more days, a couple more days. What are we? 3 more days before Ohio State. So I'm looking forward to that. I got some more things coming for y'all tomorrow. We've got our prize pick show that's going to be coming up soon. So I've got some more things as relates to that. I want to make sure I didn't miss any more super chats. Now everyone's in Text Blonde's DMs, but you know, back in the day, they was making fun. Like life is so crazy. Anyway, go out, have a good day. It's Wednesday, hump day. Do something absolutely special for yourself because you absolutely deserve it. I'll be back. Y'all take care. Remember, I always say, live each day like it's your last, because one day it will be.